Hi, this is Isabel Litzler. So on week number 2 now, how to create career opportunities in Switzerland in 12 weeks. So I'm going to give you a lot of information. You will probably take a lot of notes. This is going to help you get to the next level in your career. So I will talk about your image, some tips to develop those opportunities, and how to boost your market potential in Switzerland. So in my view, it all starts with the image. So the image for me is everything, and I know probably you think, well, it's a little bit superficial, but going back to my conference, and I will link it at the end of this video, when I talked about Tinderization of networking, I do believe that now people choose each other based on image. So Tinder did that with dating websites, and you also have applications now like Instagram, also a social network where it's all about pictures. So we are getting maybe a little bit more superficial in the sense that, in my view, professionals, if you're in the networking setting, check you out on your profile basically and your photo. So if you have photos that are a little bit shabby and not very attractive, you're basically going to be disfavored, even though you have a great profile, that you've achieved things and you have a degree and so forth. In the end, what really matters is the look. But again, the look needs to be substantial with also delivering quality. So if you look sharp and you dress sharp, but you have no skills, it's not going to help you. But the perceived image, so image that people have of you when they meet you the first time, is what they're going to remember. And that's what's going to trigger maybe follow-up meetings or wanting to get to know you more. But if they don't get satisfaction on the photo part, they're not going to look further. They're going to get a poor image of you, and that's the end. Your opportunities are closed. So that's an easy way to, especially online, to build credibility, is to take good care of your online profile, is to have those photos where you're proud of what you portray, and you have a lot of image consultants out there who can help you if you need. But if you click on the internet, in 2 clicks you can see, executive look or manager look or what have you, and you find what's appropriate. So who are you as far as an individual? Those are some of the information I will share with you to help you define your opportunities. So what are your work experiences, what you want, what you don't want? Do you send the right message to the world? Pay attention to your body language, mainly. That's where it's happening. So I would say the photo on the profile, and then when you go to interview stage, potentially the body language. So if you're not comfortable, train with a coach, book that session. That's going to help you get better exposure. So some tips to help you develop your network. I really believe that if opportunity doesn't knock, you have to build a door. So I used a mountains photo there for a reason, is that especially in Switzerland, most expats will have to build their own opportunities. You will have a few, especially the younger crowd, where maybe if you have a few years of experience, you can fit in the right online the adverts online for jobs. But if you're part of the, I would say, more experienced folks, probably you won't find something that fits, and you will have to create your own opportunity. So I would strongly encourage you to think about that. What kind of door could you build for yourself? So I'm going to help you build that door by having you think about what you have to offer. So what are you looking for? What do you have to offer? Why should a company pick you? Build your marketing plan. What do you stand for, and what would be a good area for you to work in? Again, I always have people check the market as well. Be coherent in your job search. So coherence for me is going to be a big factor in Switzerland to reassure the Swiss employers. So if they see that everything matches and falls well together, they're going to be more inclined to basically work with you or to meet you. So communication in your photos, in your application. So remember, you don't get a chance to make a second good impression. So once you send that resume out, you can go back to pick it up and change it. The coherence that's also important is coherence in priorities. So if you're looking for certain types of work, it's going to come at a price, and sometimes people also underestimate that. I always, when I have people think about the priorities, I always have them think also about their personal life. It's good to have everything consolidated, in my view, so that you don't have to juggle and run around and create a complicated life for yourself. So people who know me very well, I'm for a simple life, very basic, very easy to manage. I don't like complexity in my life, so I try to reduce that to the minimum. So the more you want to create this complexity around you in terms of where you live, where you work, the things you do, it's going to it is possible, but it's going to be very challenging, and it's going to create stress and hence potentially, I put their recipe for burnout. So, if you try to do too many things at the same time, more likely you will be burned out. So sometimes the multitasking, people take it to the extreme. So, seeking employed work while you start a company, whilst you volunteer, whilst you do sports, while people tend to take everything and just do too much of it. So you need to, do things for yourself, but also one after the other is a little more reasonable. So think network. So if you're new in town, for example, you know nobody, you're going to have to build that network. If you know a few people, just start there, start reviving these connections because you will need them. Open up your horizons. So people tend to not be open enough, in my view. So they will only look in Geneva or in Zurich or in one city. You can't do that, especially in such a small market. You have to think about Switzerland is a small country in comparison to maybe big cities like London or Paris or New York or what have you. So you have to open up as much as possible, and just remember that recruiters may also be open to arrangements. So sharing time between home and office, if you're the ideal candidate, I put negotiation is always possible. So think about that when you apply, even if it's not the ideal location or so forth. Think about the fact that you can always negotiate. Start your own business. This is something I won't get into details because it's going to be the topic of my last video next week of the 3-video series. So start your business is really, for me, a huge solution for expats, especially in Switzerland. If you're in that stage where you're ready, you have to be ready. It is not so easy. The Swiss market is complicated, so you have to be prepared for it. But if you are, it can be a great way to jumpstart your career, to start something different, to take new challenges. So, give yourself some objectives there. And of course, this is something I will detail next week. Network with employment agencies. So if you're looking for a job, employment agencies are your job search partner, just like LinkedIn. So more and more now actually is going straight on the social media, but agencies, especially in Switzerland, tend to have a reputation in certain industries, and they will only go those industries through those agencies. So if you're in pharma, in marketing, whatever, you will have dedicated agencies that you need to go through to be hired by the company. Some companies don't do straight recruiting themselves, or they don't use social media as much. I'm thinking more the old style companies. I haven't seen really necessarily so much online. So again, the more traditional businesses tend to avoid online. So you have to be aware of that. Keep a list of agencies. So of course, I provide in my free documents below, I provide a listing of agencies in Switzerland. But remember, I've known a lot of expats who found a job via the UK from an agency there. So or friends or whatever. So you never know. Again, it's part of that open-mindedness. I always encourage people, if you're not in Switzerland yet, keep your job search broad, even to other countries than Switzerland. You may be very happily surprised with very good job opportunities via other countries. Leave your routine. So if right now you're you're doing the same thing every day, hoping a different result, it's probably not going to work out. Doing the same thing doesn't bring a different result. So start reading also business press, online, register in conferences, try to get out of your daily things that you do. Look for companies presenting a logical next step for you. Changing jobs and sectors are not a good idea in my view. Especially when you're entering a new market, because you need to build that reputation first. So the changing careers I talked about in my first video would be very good if you're already in Switzerland, you already have a base there, and you just want to evolve. Then I would say it's the proper time to do it. But if you are now in a situation where you're new to the country, I would say stick with the basics, stick with what you know already to enter the market. Now, the thing that people don't use enough of, in my view, is definitely how to empower themselves with the internet, is unleash the power of the search engine. So there's not just the social media and job boards. I mean, online you can find a lot of opportunities by just checking, things like Switzerland finance jobs, for example, instead of accountant in Geneva would be a good example. So stay, I would say, as broad as possible in your searches, in your search engine. So if you put accountant in Geneva, you're only going to get the accountant positions in Geneva. However, if you put Switzerland finance jobs, you're going to get much more. You're going to pull all these jobs in finance, maybe in Geneva, in Zurich, and different locations basically. So you're going to broaden up your horizons, your opportunities, and it's going to bring so much more results for you. Also, learn to use social networks. So, register on selected websites, keywords again. So I have a lot of discussions with clients on keywords. Keywords is just not a keyword galore where you just put everything there hoping that the more the better. Keywords are just there to help position yourself in what it is that you do. Of course, they help with search engines, but if you overuse them, if you go towards the black hat, to use the IT term, more than a white hat, meaning you're trying to hack the system, it's not going to work very well. So, it's always better to stay balanced there. So you don't want to use basically tricks, like dirty tricks, to try to get through on the pile of the resume. I mean, you want to do, again, what I call a good application, and you're welcome to watch the video that I've done on how to get a job in Switzerland, and how to, on my webinar that I do, and it's also linked below, where I explain a little bit, the right application in Switzerland is having a good cover letter, good resume, where you took the time to do something that's well put together. It's not about keywords. So it's a global thing. It's the whole scope of things. It's not just one thing. That's what people have to remember. So define your career project very well. Learn how to use at least one social network. So again, LinkedIn seems to make the most sense for me. But maybe you have a Facebook profile that just needs a little tweaking, and it would also work well. Open up your mind. Again, people tend to be very focused on one thing. Set a coherent goal for your job search. Define what you're willing to do to be employed again. So it's always the thing where, and I talked about this before, am I at the right level? Do I post below my level, etc.? It really depends on the opportunity. So think about a backup plan basically as well. People always favor a working status in Switzerland. So whether it's self-employed, volunteer, part-time, keep your foot on the pedal, as Sheryl Sandberg said, especially as a woman. If you want to keep your career going, you need to be marketable, you need to have skills. So you don't want to leave the market entirely, rather work 20% and leave the market. So create opportunities for me is all about different things that you can do. It could be maybe a job you didn't consider because it's too far, and in Switzerland you will find people are not very mobile. You will find out very, very fast. As a new expat, you'll probably find it strange, and then I can guarantee you after a couple of years you'll be probably even less mobile than the Swiss themselves. And I've seen this also where people won't go beyond their own neighborhood. So people become very, very static in Switzerland. So be different, in terms of distance. Be willing to maybe move to a different city or location. That's going to make you already outside the box type of employee. Maybe it's a job different than what you thought. As long as you have the skills, apply. If you have the skills, for sure, apply. A partnership opportunity, if you're more, maybe you were an entrepreneur or you had a business before, We go back to my slide about creating a business. I will talk about that next week, but it could be a great resource for you. So now going into the third part of this presentation, I like the idea of people boosting their potential by doing different things around their profile. I would not recommend, as I said earlier, to do everything at once. So having a personal project plus going to school plus volunteering, that's going to be too much. And you're going to be actually less attractive. So the ideas that I'm giving you to boost your potential, used very sporadically, can help. But if you use all of them at the same time, it's actually downgrading your profile because the employer will sense that you're not going to be available. So if you say, yeah, I just started to join a sports team and we rehearse every weekend, and also I have my personal project on my business, and also I'm doing, language training, etc., the employer will say this person is not going to be 100% there for me. So pick one, pick two maximum, just to have something to say if you're unemployed, but don't pick all of them. So examples would be a personal project. So that's great to fill resume. So personal project could be maybe you're helping build a not-for-profit, something like that, or you're writing a book. Those are examples of personal projects. It could be taking a course. It's in the center actually, because for me it's very helpful when you're changing careers especially. So taking a course, always upgrading your skills is always positive. Working part-time. Again, it has to be relevant to your career that you want, but it can help. Doing some sports keeps you in shape, it keeps your mind sharp, very positive. Volunteering for an organization. So again, I'm thinking not-for-profit, maybe giving a hand. Maybe they need some accounting or, things like that. And finally, language training all the way to the left, because in Switzerland, that's going to be a huge, huge help for you. So I would say probably if you're new to Switzerland, the first thing you can do to boost your potential is to learn the language. So learn French if you're in Geneva, learn German if you're in Zurich. I would say a mixture of learning the language and trying to go where you meet people. So I think those two, if you ask me what should I do to boost my market potential, learning the language and volunteering, which would help with your networking, would get you somewhere. I think the other ones are also relevant. Probably part-time is harder because you would need to get a job, even if it's part-time. Training takes a lot of resources and it could be costly if you do a full training there. Sports is good for your mental health, but not necessarily priority. And then personal projects, you need to have one. So I think, again, it's if you don't have a personal project, what are you going to do? But I think just for me, what makes sense, learn the language and volunteer somewhere would be my two recommendations. So an exercise that you can do to get you a little bit move forward, list your job search goal, what it is that you want to do in Switzerland. List your current activities in job search and what is working, what is not working. That's going to give you an idea of what you need to improve. And hopefully this video will fill in the gap in the not working part. And decide two things you will do more of, maybe a new activity, especially if you see a lot of things that are not working in your job search. Maybe picking up one of those activities to boost your potential. So I recommend that you book a call with me if you want to know more, if you want to completely unleash your potential and find opportunities for yourself in Switzerland. Feel free to like and share this video and join. Register and join to become a member of this channel. Be happy to have you in the community, and also feel free to comment. Always helpful to know what type of information is the most useful for the community. I appreciate it. Thanks.